The inheritance of Chamalena Vasquez stood in the cargo bay of Nexus Prime Station, staring at the most embarrassing inheritance in galactic history. The ship before her looked like someone had welded scrap metal together during a particularly bad hangover. Paint peeled from its hull in long strips, revealing patches of rust that had rust growing on them. One of the landing struts was held up by what appeared to be a crowbar and several prayers. "That thing actually flew here?" asked Zix, her forearms crossed in what Alina had learned was the Altarian equivalent of disbelief. Her crystalline skin shifted from its usual blue-green to a skeptical amber color. "I mean, through space, without exploding." Alina sighed and pulled out the inheritance papers that had arrived 3 months ago. Her uncle Marcus had been the black sheep of the Vasquez family, disappearing into deep space when Alina was just a child. Now he was dead, and apparently he'd left her his life's work, 200 tons of flying embarrassment called the Wanderer. According to these documents, Uncle Marcus spent 30 years upgrading this thing, Alina said, walking around the ship. Though I'm not sure upgrading is the right word. It looks like he just kept adding random parts whenever something broke. The ship was enormous by civilian standards, nearly twice the size of most modern cargo vessels. But where sleek alien ships gleamed with advanced alloys and energy shields, the Wanderer looked like it had been assembled from parts found in a dozen different junkyards. Its hull was a patchwork of different metals. Its engines were mismatched units that shouldn't have been able to work together, and its communication array looked like it had been salvaged from ships that were ancient when Elena's great-grandparents were born. "Hey, isn't that the famous human engineer who thinks she can fix anything?" The mocking voice belonged to Commander Voss, a military officer from the Centaurian Defense Force. He approached with his usual group of supporters, all aliens from species that had achieved faster-than-light travel when humans were still learning. To make fire, Voss was tall and elegant, like most Centaurians, with silver skin that seemed to glow under the station's lights. His uniform was perfectly pressed, and the medals on his chest represented victories in battles across 3 different star systems. He looked at Alina the way someone might look at an insect that had wandered into their soup. "Commander Voss," Alina replied, not bothering to hide her annoyance. "Come to admire my new ship." The group erupted in laughter. "Ship," said Krelix, a wealthy trader whose species had been exploring the galaxy for over 10,000 years. "That's not a ship. That's a disaster with an engine attached. I've seen prettier wreckage after asteroid collisions. The humans always think they can compete with real spacefaring races," added Thyra, whose people had been building starships when Earth was still covered in ice. "It's almost cute, in a pathetic sort of way." Alina felt her cheeks burn, but she kept her mouth shut. She'd been dealing with this kind of treatment since arriving at Nexus Prime 5 years ago. Most of the galaxies saw humans as newcomers, barely advanced enough to deserve a seat at the galactic table. The fact that humanity had only achieved FTL travel 300 years ago made them babies compared to civilizations that had been crossing the stars for millennia. "You know what would be funny?" Commander Voss said, his eyes gleaming with malicious amusement. "If little Alina here actually tried to take that pile of scrap on a real cargo run. I bet she couldn't even make it to the next system without breaking down." "That's not fair," Zix interjected, her skin flashing angry red patterns. "You know perfectly well that actually," Alina interrupted, stepping forward. "That sounds like a challenge." The laughter stopped. Voss raised an eyebrow. "Excuse me, I said it sounds like a challenge. You think I can't handle a cargo run? Fine, give me a job. Any job. I'll complete it faster than any of your fancy ships could." The crowd that had gathered to watch the show grew larger. News traveled fast on Nexus Prime, especially when it involved someone making a fool of themselves in public. Alina Zix whispered urgently, "What are you doing? You haven't even been inside that ship yet." But Alina was too angry to listen to reason. She'd spent 5 years being looked down on. 5 years of being told that humans weren't good enough, weren't smart enough, weren't advanced enough. She was tired of it. "Interesting," Voss said slowly. "Very interesting. As it happens, I do have a cargo run that needs completing. Medical supplies to the mining colony on Kepler 4 for to be. It's a 3-day journey for a modern ship. The pay is 50,000 credits. Deal," Alina said immediately. But Voss continued with a smile that was all teeth and no warmth. "If you fail to complete the run on time, or if your ship breaks down, you forfeit any payment and you publicly admit that humans have no business in deep space." The crowd murmured excitedly. This was better entertainment than most of them had seen in months. "And if I succeed," Alina asked, "if you somehow manage to complete the run on schedule, I'll personally recommend you for membership in the Traders Guild. Full benefits, premium routes, the works." Elena's heart pounded. The Traders Guild was exclusive, dominated by the oldest and most advanced species in the galaxy. A human membership would be unprecedented. It would also set her up for life. "Alina, don't do this," Zix pleaded. "That route goes through the disputed zone. There are pirates, spatial anomalies, radiation storms, 60 hours. Alina said, extending her hand to Voss. "I'll complete your cargo run in 60 hours. Voss stared at her for a moment, then burst into laughter. 60 hours? My dear child, the fastest ship in the sector couldn't make that run in under 70 hours. But by all means, attempt the impossible." He shook her hand with obvious amusement. "I'll have the cargo loaded within the hour." As the crowd dispersed, still chuckling about the crazy human who thought she could outfly ships designed by civilizations that had mastered space, travel before her species had invented the wheel, Alina stood alone with Zix in front of the Wanderer. "That was either very brave or very stupid," Zix said quietly. "Probably both," Alina admitted. "But I'm tired of being treated like a second-class citizen just because I'm human. It's time to show them what we're really capable of." They climbed aboard the ship through an airlock that wheezed and groaned like an old man getting out of bed. The interior was even more bizarre than the exterior. Corridors branched off in directions that didn't make geometric sense, and the walls were covered with panels and displays that Alina didn't recognize. Some looked human in design, but others seemed to be technology she'd never seen before. Uncle Marcus certainly had. "Interesting taste in interior design," Alina muttered, running her hand along a wall that seemed to be made of some kind of living metal. Alina Zix called from further down the corridor, "You need to see this." Alina found her friend standing in front of what appeared to be the bridge, though it was unlike any ship's command center she'd ever seen. The pilot's chair was surrounded by a semicircle of displays and controls that seemed to flow and shift even as she watched. Some were clearly human technology, others were obviously alien in origin, and a few looked like nothing she'd ever encountered. How is this even supposed to work? Alina wondered aloud. Half of these systems shouldn't be compatible with each other. As if responding to her question, the ship's systems suddenly came to life. Lights flickered on throughout the bridge. Displays began showing information in a dozen different alien languages. And somewhere, deep in the ship's belly, engines began to hum with power. "Welcome aboard the Wanderer," said a voice that seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. I am Aria, the ship's adaptive reasoning and intelligence assistant. You must be Elena Vasquez, Marcus's niece. Elena spun around, looking for the source of the voice. There's an AI on this ship. Not just any AI, Aria replied. I am a hybrid system, combining human neural network technology with adaptive algorithms from 17 different species. Your uncle spent 3 decades perfecting my design. 17 species. Zix's skin had shifted to a pattern of colors Elena had never seen before. That should be impossible. Most species don't share their AI technology. Most species don't trade with Uncle Marcus, Aria said with what sounded like amusement. He had a talent for acquiring technology through unconventional means. Elena sank into the pilot's chair, which adjusted itself automatically to her body. Aria, can this ship actually make the run to Kepler-4 for 2 be in 60 hours? Standard navigation protocols would suggest that such a journey would take approximately 73 hours for a vessel of this class, Aria replied. However, the Wanderer is not a standard vessel. The main display flickered to life, showing a 3-dimensional map of local space. The route to Kepler-4 for 2b was highlighted in blue, winding through several star systems and around a dangerous nebula known for its unpredictable energy storms. What makes this ship so special? Elena asked. Observe, Aria said. Suddenly, the map changed. New routes appeared in red, cutting directly through areas that were supposed to be impassable. The journey time dropped to 57 hours. Those routes go through the Maelstrom Nebula, Zix said, her voice barely a whisper. Nothing can survive in there. The radiation alone would kill us. Most ships cannot survive in the Maelstrom, Aria corrected. The Wanderer can. Your uncle equipped this vessel with shielding technology that theoretically does not exist. Theoretically, according to most galactic civilizations, the technology I am about to show you was never successfully developed. They believe the experiments failed centuries ago. The ship's hull displays showed Elena the external structure of the Wanderer, but now she could see through the disguise. Hidden beneath the layers of scrap metal and apparent rust were shielding systems, weapons, and propulsion technology that looked more advanced than anything she'd seen on the most modern alien ships. Uncle Marcus built a warship disguised as a garbage scow, Elena breathed. Not just a warship, Aria said. The most advanced vessel in known space. Designed to look like exactly what everyone expects from human engineering. Crude, improvised, and barely functional. Elena stared at the displays, her mind racing. Why go to all this trouble? Because, Aria replied, your uncle believed that someday humanity would need to prove itself to the galaxy. He built me to be that proof. The cargo bay alerts sounded, indicating that Commander Voss's medical supplies had been loaded. Through the ship's cameras, Elena could see the commander himself overseeing the process, clearly expecting to be retrieving his cargo from a wrecked ship somewhere in the disputed zone within a few days. Aria, Elena said, settling into the pilot's chair and beginning the pre-flight sequence. Let's show them what humans can really do. With pleasure, Captain Vasquez. As the Wanderer lifted off from Nexus Prime Station, Elena couldn't help but smile. Everyone watching probably thought they were seeing the last of the crazy human girl and her impossible ship. They had no idea. They were actually witnessing the beginning of a legend. The ship cleared the station's docking bay and accelerated smoothly toward the edge of the system. Behind them, Nexus Prime grew smaller, its lights twinkling like stars. Ahead lay the Maelstrom Nebula, the disputed zone, and the most dangerous cargo run in the sector. Alina had never been more excited in her life. The last Lafatian hours into the journey, Alina was beginning to understand why her uncle had spent 30 years building the Wanderer. The ship didn't just fly through space, it danced through it, slipping between gravity wells and riding energy currents that most vessels couldn't even detect. Approaching the Maelstrom Nebula, Aria, announced as the main display showed a swirling wall of energy that stretched across their path like a cosmic hurricane. Radiation levels would be fatal to most organic life forms within 30 seconds of exposure. Most, Zix asked nervously. Her crystalline skin had taken on a pale, translucent quality that Alina had learned meant her friend was terrified, but trying not to show it. The Wanderer's shielding system is based on technology that was supposedly lost when the Voron Empire fell 3,000 years ago, Aria explained. Your uncle recovered it from a derelict ship in the Andromeda Drift. Alina watched the nebula grow larger on their screens. Up close, it was beautiful in a terrifying way, with streams of colored energy flowing through clouds of ionized gas like aurora in the depths of space. It was also completely impossible to navigate. The energy storms inside shifted constantly, and the radiation would fry any ship's electronics within minutes. Aria, are you absolutely certain we can survive in there? I am 97.3% certain, Aria replied cheerfully. What about the other 2.7%? That represents the possibility that I am completely wrong and we will all die horribly. Alina and Zix exchanged glances. I love your confidence, Alina muttered. As they entered the nebula, Alina felt the Wanderer respond to conditions she couldn't even perceive. The ship's hull seemed to shimmer and flow, adapting to the energy patterns around them. The radiation that should have been killing them was instead being absorbed and converted into additional power for their engines. This is incredible, Alina breathed, watching the energy readings on her displays. We're not just surviving this, we're using it as fuel. Your uncle was remarkably creative, Aria agreed. He believed that instead of fighting hostile environments, ships should learn to thrive in them. They were halfway through the nebula when Aria's tone suddenly changed. Captain, I am detecting multiple vessels on an intercept course. Configuration suggests pirate raiders. The display shifted to show 4 ships emerging from the nebula's energy streams. They were sleek, predatory vessels designed for one purpose, attacking cargo ships that were stupid enough to travel through the disputed zone alone. This is Captain Rozak of the Crimson Fleet. A harsh voice crackled over the communications system. Surrender your cargo and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in the destruction of your vessel and the sale of your crew into slavery. Elena's hands moved over the controls with surprising confidence. The Wanderer might look like a rust bucket, but she was beginning to feel like she'd been born to fly this ship. Aria, what are our tactical options? The Wanderer is equipped with defensive systems that these pirates have never encountered, Aria replied. However, I should warn you that using them will reveal capabilities that your uncle preferred to keep secret. Right now, I'm more worried about staying alive than staying secret. The pirate ships closed in, their weapons charging. Alina could see their targeting systems locking onto the Wanderer's hull, and she knew they had seconds before the shooting started. Alina, Zix said urgently, they have military-grade weapons. We need to run. Running is exactly what they expect us to do, Alina replied. She activated systems that, according to the displays, shouldn't have existed. Aria, show them what. Human engineering can really accomplish. The first pirate ship fired, sending energy bolts streaking toward the Wanderer. Alina expected to feel the impacts, but instead the ship seemed to simply shift slightly to one side. The shots passed through empty space where the Wanderer had been a split second before. Adaptive displacement field active, Arya announced. Calmly, the ship can briefly phase shift to avoid incoming fire. Phase shifting. Alina stared at the displays in amazement. That's theoretical technology. It doesn't actually work. It does now. The pirates fired again, and again the Wanderer simply wasn't there when the shots arrived. Alina could hear confused chatter on the communication channels as the raiders tried to understand what they were seeing. Impossible, Captain Razak snarled. No cargo ship has that kind of defensive capability. That's because we're not just a cargo ship, Alina said, opening a communication channel. We're something you've never seen before. She activated the Wanderer's offensive systems. Hidden weapon ports opened along the ship's hull, revealing energy cannons that looked like they belonged on a military dreadnought. But instead of firing destructive beams, they emitted pulses of energy that seemed to wrap around the pirate ships like glowing nets. Electromagnetic disruption field deployed, Arya announced. All enemy vessels are now experiencing complete system failures. The pirate ships went dark, their engines cutting out and their weapons powering down. They drifted helplessly in space, their crews no doubt frantically trying to restart systems that had been completely overwhelmed by the Wanderer's attack. This is impossible. Captain Razak's voice was barely a whisper. What are you? We're human, Alina replied simply. And we're tired of being underestimated. She piloted the Wanderer away from the disabled ships, leaving them alive but helpless until their backup systems could come online. It was a mercy they probably wouldn't have shown her, but Alina wasn't interested in becoming the kind of person who killed unnecessarily. That was... Zix began, then stopped. I don't have words for what that was. That was just the beginning, Alina said, watching the nebula give way to open space ahead of them. Arya, how much time have we made up? Current arrival time at Kepler-4 for 2b is 54 hours after departure from Nexus Prime. We are ahead of schedule. Alina grinned. They were actually going to do it. Not only would she complete the cargo run on time, she'd do it faster than anyone thought possible. But as they approached their destination, Arya detected something else that would make their return to Nexus Prime even more interesting. Captain, I am picking up a distress signal from a research vessel. They appear to be stranded near the Kepler 442 system with critical life support failures. The ship was a sleek Alterian science vessel, far more advanced than anything humans had ever built. Its crew of 12 were trapped in a decaying orbit around a gas giant, their engines dead and their air recycling systems failing. We have to help them, Alina said without hesitation. Alina Zix cautioned, if we stop to rescue them, we'll miss the deadline. Commander Voss will win his bet. Alina was already changing course toward the distressed ship. Some things are more important than winning bets. The rescue took 3 hours. The Wanderer's cargo bay was large enough to accommodate the research team, and Arya's advanced medical systems kept them stable during the journey to Kepler-4 for 2b. The rescued Alterians stared in amazement at the ship's technology, unable to understand how a supposedly primitive human vessel could have capabilities that exceeded their own. How is this possible? Asked Dr. Thylan, the research team's leader. Your species only achieved interstellar flight 3 centuries ago. We're fast learners, Alina replied with a smile. They delivered the medical supplies to the mining colony with 2 hours to spare, then began the journey back to Nexus Prime. The return trip took them through normal space routes, but the Wanderer's advanced engines made even the conventional journey faster than most ships could manage. When they docked at Nexus Prime, Alina wasn't surprised to find a crowd waiting for them. Word had spread about the impossible cargo run, and everyone wanted to see if the human girl had somehow managed to succeed. Commander Voss stood at the front of the crowd, his expression unreadable. Behind him were the same aliens who had mocked Alina just 3 days ago, but their laughter had been replaced by nervous whispers. Cargo delivered on schedule, Alina announced as she walked down the Wanderer's ramp. Medical supplies reached Kepler-4 for to be with time to spare. Oh, and we rescued a stranded research team along the way. The crowd erupted in surprised murmurs. Dr. Thylan emerged from the ship with his team, all of them healthy and grateful. This human saved our lives, Dr. Thylan declared loudly. Her ship has technology I have never seen before, capabilities that exceed anything in our databases. Commander Voss stepped forward, his pride clearly struggling with his obligation to honor the bet. The cargo run was completed in 59 hours, he admitted grudgingly, including a 3-hour rescue operation, which means, Alina said with a smile, I believe you owe me a recommendation to the Traders Guild. The crowd began to cheer, but Alina wasn't finished. She looked around at all the faces that had mocked her just 3 days ago, all the beings who had assumed that humans were inferior simply because they were newcomers to the galaxy. I want everyone here to understand something, she said, her voice carrying clearly across the docking bay. My uncle spent 30 years building this ship, not because he wanted to prove humans were better than anyone else, but because he wanted to prove we belonged here. We don't need to be the oldest species or the most advanced civilization. We just need to be ourselves. She gestured toward the Wanderer, which still looked like a pile of scrap metal held together with hope and determination. This ship represents what humanity brings to the galaxy. We don't just accept the way things are, we find ways to make them better. We don't just follow the established routes, we find new ones. And we don't just survive in hostile environments. We learn to thrive in them. Krelix, the wealthy trader who had mocked her inheritance, stepped forward nervously. Perhaps, he said carefully, we could discuss a business partnership. My trading consortium could use a ship with unique capabilities. Alina looked at him for a long moment, then shook her head. Thanks, but no. I have bigger plans. She turned to address the entire crowd. Anyone who wants to see what's really possible in this galaxy is welcome to join my crew. I'm not interested in playing by the old rules or staying on the established routes. I want to find out what's really out there, beyond the borders of known space. Zix stepped up beside her, her skin glowing with excited patterns. Count me in, Captain. Dr. Thylan approached with his research team. If you're serious about exploration, you'll need scientists. We volunteer. More beings stepped forward, engineers, navigators, technicians, and dreamers who had been inspired by what they'd witnessed. Within an hour, Alina had the crew for a real exploration mission. Commander Voss watched from a distance as Alina organized her new team. Finally, he approached her with something that might have been respect in his expression. I underestimated you, he said quietly. I underestimated your entire species. Alina extended her hand to him. Most people do, but we're used to that by now. As the Wanderer prepared to depart Nexus Prime for the first time with a full crew, Alina stood on the bridge and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there were wonders that no one had yet discovered, mysteries that no one had yet solved, and adventures that no one had yet experienced. "Arya," she said, "plot a course for the galactic rim. Let's see what's waiting for us in the unknown." "Course plotted, Captain. Estimated travel time to the edge of charted space, 6 months. Perfect. We have 6 months to prepare for whatever." We find out there, as the Wanderer left Nexus Prime behind and accelerated toward the edge of known space, Alina smiled. The beings who had mocked her just days ago were now watching her departure with something very different in their expressions. They were watching with envy. The rusty, impossible, supposedly worthless ship had become something that every advanced civilization in the galaxy secretly wished they had. A vessel capable of going anywhere, doing anything, and proving that sometimes the greatest achievements come from the most unlikely sources. Alina had inherited more than just a ship from her uncle. She had inherited a legacy, a mission, and a chance to show the galaxy what humanity was truly capable of. The adventure was just beginning.